Welcome back to part 2 of our live training session here with our Whipple charged S197 Mustang. In our last tutorial, we focused on building the base map, getting everything sorted out. So this tutorial, we're going to be focusing on getting the engine to fire up and run and sort through the idle control. This is the very first step in the calibration process, validating everything that we've set up in the base map, making sure that's all good and that the engine is going to actually fire up and run. Now the idle control is relatively straightforward, but there are some specific details we need to know. So I'm going to go through how to dial that in for this particular application. Without further wait, let's jump in so we can check this out.
Welcome back to our live training session here with our Whipple charged S197 Mustang. In our previous tutorial, we created our base file. This tutorial, we're going to go ahead and flash our file to our vehicle here. We're going to get it fired up and we're going to start to take a look at things like our mass airflow, calibration curve, and idle conditions. Also our idle control, making sure that we're reaching or hitting our desired target idle speed. There's probably some things that we need to tweak and some changes that we need to make in order to get things ironed out here. We want to make sure that the car is going to fire up and idle, hold its own idle, and be stable. Also, if we free rev the engine and bring it back into idle, or if we start to drive off idle, it's going to return back to idle nice and smooth. If we want to go and work on our part throttle calibration process in cruising or wide open throttle even, we have to make sure that the vehicle is not going to stall on us, or it's not going to have a runaway throttle or hang the throttle open as we're trying to return back into our idle conditions. So there's a lot of things to account for here. Hopefully everything's going to line up. We do have a couple unknowns here. The mass airflow curve was calculated using our Excel spreadsheet calculators. Probably some adjustments we need to make to that. We also have a throttle body model that we've imported, 132 mil Roval elliptical throttle body here that we have supplied from Whipple. I've used some decent throttle body data as a starting point. We might have to tweak and adjust that. Things like our throttle body data can affect our idle. So we're going to look at if we need to update that and how do we know we need to update it. So we're going to go probably make some tweaks and changes. I'm anticipating probably have to do that. We also may have to alter our torque table specifically for our idle conditions. So the map point that's associated to idle in our torque tables may have to be adjusted to start to adjust our spark timing feedback to get that sorted out. I'll kind of explain that as we go along if we need to touch all of these tables. I like to keep things as simple as possible, so when we created our base map in that last tutorial, we only altered and changed essentially what was needed, the bare minimum. If we go in and we start to just alter all these different tables in anticipation of having a problem, when you fire up your engine, you're going to be chasing your tail and trying to undo all the changes that you've made. So I always try to do the bare minimum with the Fords, then I kind of let it feel itself out, fire it up, go in data log, and then look at what it's actually showing me in the log data and then make my changes from there. So there's some things within the idle control we're definitely gonna have to look at. We're gonna have to see how it performs, but we don't want to jump the gun and make too many changes right off the bat. So we're just gonna baseline it with what we changed and then slowly make changes to the idle control from there. So we'll have to see how all of that goes. So we have a bunch of unknowns. One thing I can say is that we have good injector data from injector dynamics, so that should be one less variable or unknown that we have to deal with. If we have a fueling difference, if we're richer or leaner than our desired lambda at idle conditions, that's stoichiometric or 1.0 lambda, if we're finding that we're adding fuel or taking fuel away, chances are it's not from our fuel injector data or our fuel modeling, so turning our fuel mass into injector pulse width. It's most likely not coming from that side of that equation. So fuel mass is equal to air mass divided by target air fuel. It's not coming from the fuel mass to injector pulse width conversion because the injector should be solid. I've used many vehicles with the injector dynamics data for Fords, and it's always rock solid. So if we're finding a discrepancy, it's most likely going to be in our mass airflow curve. And we have a calculated math that we've built out from our Excel spreadsheet. That's going to be essentially our unknown variable right now. We have to sort out our mass airflow first. Once we fire it off, using our fuel trims in a histogram, I'm going to be showing you that real quick, in order to make sure that the reported airflow is correct, because everything hinges upon reported airflow. Our torque-based tables, which control the idle, look at the reported airflow. If the airflow is higher or lower because the mass airflow curve isn't calibrated right, that's going to throw off the torque calculations at idle, which can throw off how we're actually having our idle control being implemented and feeding back into controlling the motor here. So it's kind of a circular type of relationship here. Airflow has to be set up first so that everything else that falls below the airflow in terms of calculations is in line. And then if it isn't, then we can jump in and adjust those different aspects in order to get things calibrated. So hopefully that makes sense. So what we have here now, open the calibration file on my screen. that we have loaded is called idle tuning. That is our base calibration from our previous tutorial. I've just saved this as a new file name to distinguish this in the calibration process. So if I don't like what's happening here in my idle tuning calibration as I'm making my updates and changes, I can always go back to the base cal and have that as a starting point and start from there. So I always like to save in stages or segments in my calibration file creation process during the tuning, just so I have a way to go backwards or forwards as I'm going through calibrating everything. So that's where we're at right now. What I'm going to do is flash this file to the vehicle. We can see right here, we have this little icon, right vehicle. That's what we click on to flash the file to the vehicle. I have my MPVI2 cable plugged into the OBD2 port, plugged into my laptop. I have the key on, engine off, so I'm in the state that I can actually start to flash it. Let's go ahead and do that right now. I'm gonna go up here and do a flash to vehicle. And then we can see here.
Thanks for checking out our teaser clip. If you want to see the rest of this video and more than 500 hours of current EFI training we have to offer, make sure you click right here. If you want to go and check out more teaser clips from this training course, click here. And you don't want to miss any of the videos we're going to be releasing on this channel, so make sure you subscribe and click here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.